Tonight on Business Prime, Ghana Mine Workers Union threatens industrial action if temporary employment of members persists.
With this can now, the future will be a major worry for all of us. So labor law reform is important, but it's also important that collective action becomes an alternative.
Also, Tourism Ministry confident of meeting revenue target following the launch of Destination Ghana campaign.
The Americans and the diasporans from South America or the Caribbean coming. Now we can increase the numbers with the European markets as well. And that is why President went to launch Destination Ghana, all to be able to meet our targets.
And we will tell you why fisher folk want a date change for the close season.
We would be glad if authorities close the sea in May and opens it in June for us. You still find trawlers on shore during the closure of the sea. How will they deal with the trawler operators? What information will be given to the trawler operators?
More of these coming shortly with me, Charles Ayitey, but we'll kickstart with commodities. Tonight, the Ghana Mine Workers Union says it will resort to an industrial action if temporary employment of members still persist. According to the union, the practice is causing declining incomes and job insecurity in the industry. Speaking to Joy Business at the union's May Day Funfair, which sought to honor some industry players, the General Secretary Abdul Mumin Bana said that his outfit will stop at nothing to change the narrative to ensure permanent employment of its members.
Simply considering how, or looking at how we can cause or ensure labor law reform. And as you are aware, the Labor Act 651 is currently undergoing some review, albeit snail paced. But what we are determined to do as Ghana Mine Workers Union and by extension organized labor of this country is to ensure that we quicken the pace and to ensure that we are able to bring about the needed reforms that would also guarantee to a very large extent employment protection in this country. One thing that you must remember is that the spate of, or the increasing spate of non-standard forms of employment is not only the preserve, or is not only akin or associated with the mining sector alone. It's actually a gradual feature that is becoming a part and parcel of our labor market in this country. And it's important that as organized labor, we marshal all the strength and all the forces that we need to be able to wrestle this matter, because it is about survival. If we don't deal with this can now, the future will be a major worry for all of us. So labor law reform is important, but it's also important that collective action becomes an alternative. And like I said, organized labor, one of our key values is collective action, where we engage, where we use law and it doesn't appear to work out the way we expect it to. We must deploy the appropriate tools and strategies, which include collective action. And so whatever we can do to change this narrative and to ensure that the deterioration in terms and conditions of employment in the mining sector and by extension the entire economy is halted, we must do so as quickly as possible.
Meanwhile, the Vice President and Managing Director of Golden Star Resources, Shadrach Ayitey, who was honored at the Mine Workers Union's May Day Funfair, has called for collaboration between employers in the mining sector and the union to promote the welfare of workers.
It all depends on the collaboration between the employer and then the union. I believe in the concept of a win-win situation, and then where you'll be able to clearly define the rights of the union and then the privileges of the union. most often than not, we do misconstrued privileges to be right. But again, you also always have to ensure that there's fairness in the distribution of whatever income that arises from the work. Okay, so you need to be fair to the workers. You need to motivate them. You need to recognize them, and then you need to make sure that they are safe. In whatever form that they come to work, they will return in that same form to their families. I'm not quite surprised with this honor that was bestowed onto me today. The point is, I've had a very long-lasting relationship with the union. At times, it becomes very difficult for you to know where exactly you stand, whether at the side of management or at the side of the union. But again, as I said, my principle is there should be a win-win situation when there is a deadlock. Okay, so you just need to collaborate and then find a middle term that the two of you can agree on. And that has been the relationship between myself and then the union.
Away from that, the Ministry of Tourism is optimistic of meeting its revenue target with the launch of the Destination Ghana campaign. Now, this campaign is a global drive to woo investors to Ghana through the country's tourist sites and was launched by President Akufo-Addo in London. In an interview with Joy Business at the 5th Ghana Business Leaders Excellence Awards, the Deputy Tourism Minister, Mark Okrekumante, said the campaign seeks to widen the scope of potential investors.
Was better than 2019 because in the last year it was erratic. Occasionally came across to us like as if COVID was gone, and then it comes up. But this year we can assure you that now that President Akufo-Addo is saying that it is not mandatory to wear mask, I think it's not just Ghana. It's become flexible a bit. We can assure you that with Destination Ghana launched, we are expecting a bigger boom by end of year. This target, it means that we need to work extra hard. And that is why President Akufo-Addo has launched Destination Ghana. The agenda is that we promoted year of return in the Caribbean and the USA. We did not do UK and then Euro and the peripherals. And so President Akufo-Addo decided that, okay, let's go launch this fall, so that when we have the Americans and the diasporans from South America or the Caribbean coming, now we can increase the numbers with the European markets as well. And that is why President went to launch Destination Ghana, all to be able to meet our targets.
Take some tough measures now to restructure the country's rising debt. That's a warning from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to government. It follows a new assessment of Ghana's debt position, which raised some red flags. George Rafi has the rest of the story.
The IMF maintained that government must move now with some policy measures to help bring the debt situation under control. There are also suggestions that Ghana may now have to look at some debt forgiveness from its creditors. Joy Business is learning that these are some of the issues that topped discussions during closed-door meetings between government and officials of the IMF during the spring meetings in Washington, D.C., USA. These concerns of the IMF have been influenced by what they describe as not so good revenue position and whether government has got the space to raise the required funds to reduce the debts. The IMF appears not to be that convinced about the proposed revenue measures that government is working on. However, government officials have argued that the recent expansion of the economy by 5.4% for last year may bring the debt situation to levels that can be described as not so worrying. This is because they also argue that going ahead with these debt reprofiling programs and other initiatives that would help bring the situation under control. Ghana's debt stock in December 2001 stood at 351.8 billion Ghana cedis. However, government has revised its share of GDP to 76 from the initial 80%.
Now, the rate of depreciation of the cedi to the US dollar has slowed down considerably, but the rapid fall in the first quarter of this year has still kept the local currency as one of the worst performing currencies in Africa so far this year. The cedi declined in value by about 19% to the dollar in the first 4 months of this year. That's according to Bloomberg, but less than 1% in the month of April. Charles Nixon looks at the League of African Currencies and their performances and has come through this.
The local currency responded positively to the policy actions by the Bank of Ghana and the fiscal measures by the finance minister, slowing down significantly its rate of depreciation in the month of April. It depreciated by less than 1% in value after going down by about 18.21% in the first quarter of this year. Demand for the dollar after the announcement of the policy actions fell drastically, while some foreign investors reposed confidence in the economy. Some research institutions, including Fitch Solutions, had also projected that the cedi will record some modest gains in the coming months. This is as a result of the expected improved fiscal economy. Meanwhile, the cedi was ranked 22nd and bottom among the League of African performing currencies in the first 4 months of this year. The Egyptian pound was 21st, with a rate of depreciation of 15.10% to the dollar. Guinea's francs is the best performing currency on the continent so far this year, with an appreciation of 5.36% to the dollar.
Now, the Chamber of Entrepreneurs wants the government to exempt all SMEs and entrepreneurs from the 1.5% electronic levy. President of the Chamber, Sheriff Gali, tells Joy Business that the tax handle is more or less double taxation for startups who frequent mobile money transactions in the course of their business operations.
Mostly in the arena of facilitating transactions, if not we doing merchants or we enabling business transactions. So at the end of the day, an entrepreneur can do transaction more than a normal person. Maybe a day you does 100, you to a loved one. But for us, you buy, you sell. So mostly it's in and out. So it is related to us because I can say we actively participate in the electronic transaction arena, and that's why entrepreneurs are crying, because if that mistake should continue, it means double charges will be happening and all. It will never be good for businesses. And like I told you, that the worst thing we can or we should be praying against is that these entrepreneurs are planning to increase their prices. I'm telling you. And if we do that, you can imagine that the already hardship we are facing is going to be a big issue. So it should be worked on as soon as possible. Nobody cannot say that entrepreneurs shouldn't complain, because we actually does transaction more than anybody. We buy, we sell. Great. So mostly, I can tell you that 80% of our transaction has become electronic, because most of our clients are not with us. Most of our suppliers are not with us. You need to do transfer. You can't travel all the way to Wa or Kumasi to buy your share butter. You need to do transfer. So yes, it is really, really something that needs to be looked at. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Country Director of CART International, Pierre Kusu-Dumako, says even though the e-levy seeks to rake in revenue, the tax handle will be a disincentive for investors.
It can showcase the strength of this economy and not allow the e-levy to take away the shine of it. There are lots of things that good in this country that we can clinch on and do not allow the e-levy to take the glory of the country. As I said, taxes is the subscription that we pay to live in a civilized society. So as a people, even when investors are coming in their country, they pay taxes, just that they don't pay anything like e-levy. And I think that e-levy should not be a permanent tax handle in this country. I think that government within the next 2 or 3 or 4 years should look at other sources of taxes that are more at individual level, that will not result in a double taxation, but tax that the rich should pay more than the poor. And so government should give itself 3 years, e-levy will go. By that time, maybe we are making decent income from property taxes and other loopholes in the tax system. And that should be, that is more of my recommendation to the government.
Now, the National Lottery Authority is cautioning patrons to be mindful of unscrupulous people who have been using the name of the institution and some of its personnel to dupe people. Director General Sami Awoku says lottery is a game of chance and therefore no one can be given a winning number. He was speaking to a cross-section of the media when his outfit undertook a health screening exercise here in Accra.
Of the National Lottery Authority, Sami Awoku, is worried about the number of scammers destroying the image of the institution he heads. He therefore wants every lottery staker to be careful about fraudsters.
What I want to appeal to them is some mischievous characters have been using the names and the brand images of management and staff of the NLA to commit crime by saying they can give them numbers. None of these numbers, nobody can give you a number. It's a game of chance. So when you play it, you win, you win. You lose, you lose. Don't fall victim to scammers who will add you to WhatsApp platforms, who will tell you we can give you numbers. Nobody can give you a number.
Mr. Awoku also said his outfit will support the less privileged in society.
And for us at the NLA, we believe that as part of our corporate social responsibility, our primary focus is also to help assist many Ghanaians who are mentally, physically afflicted, who have also conditions, poor, less privileged and underprivileged. For us to also continue to assist these individuals as part of our good.
The NLA is one of the state institutions that made profit in 2020, according to the State Ownership Report.
Guad London Beach are pushing for a change in the fishing season's end date. Now, they say that the current economic situation and growing cost of goods will have a significant impact on their livelihood. My colleague James Eshen visited the fishing community and has come through with a special feature.
In the last few days, there has been a lot of concern with respect to the closure of the fishing season this year. We are here at the Nungwa Landing Beach to speak to these fisher folk to know what's really the problem with the closure of the fishing season. The government's nationwide restricted fishing season, which began in 2019, appears to have had a favorable influence on harvest. The goal is to rebuild the depleted fish stocks. Some anglers are dissatisfied with the date of the season's end. With only a few weeks until the start of this year's nationwide closed fishing season, some fishermen are requesting a date modification. Francis, who has worked in the fishing industry for over 40 years, explains that while the season is closed, foreign trawlers are allowed to fish. Foreign nationals, he claims, kill the fish with their fishing methods. He considers it as distressing and he believes it undermines the closure's purpose. We would be glad if authorities close the sea in May and opens it in June for us. You still find trawlers on shore during the closure of the sea. How will they deal with the trawler operators? What information will be given to the trawler operators? They kill all the fishes with their method of fishing before the sea is opened. This is very disturbing and it takes away the motive behind the closure. Authorities must close the sea to both local fisherfolk and the foreigners. Secondly, during the closure, life becomes very difficult. With the current economic situation wreaking havoc on all enterprises, Joyce, a long-time angler, says life has become miserable for them. She said that after the closure last year, many of the children in the community were involved in a variety of vices.
We are suffering. After the closure of the sea last year, many of the youth in the community resorted to stealing. Fishing is our source of livelihood. That is what we use to educate our children. I go fishing myself and I have 3 children. All of them go fishing as well. The timelines for the closure this year will greatly affect us as compared to the previous years. So we are pleading with the authorities to reconsider their decision.
But he believes that changing the date will help them do more. He noted that the demand for the closure in 2020 was fine for them, but that of last year and this year's July to August month will have a negative influence on their business and livelihoods due to the hardship. We are hungry. The situation is worrying. The May-August closure will not be favorable at all. Fishing is our only source of income. The timeline for last 2 years was okay. To be frank with you, we were happy. Many of these fishermen have entreated their leaders to speak with the ministries about their mounting fears with respect to the closure, but it appears that these efforts have been ineffective.
Looking around, this clearly tells you what these fisher folk go through on daily basis. I earlier engaged them and I was being told that last year's closure, that was within the months of July to August, was not the best. As fisher folk, they prefer the month of April and May. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
Wilmar Africa Limited, one of the largest manufacturing business entities in Ghana, has donated some foodstuff to the National Chief Imam. According to the marketing manager of Wilmar Africa, Irama Ayitey, this is their way of joining and supporting the Islamic community in the Salah festivities. She spoke to the media after the donation.
Wilmar Africa presented to the National Chief Imam products including bags of fortune rice, Fritor oil, and seasoning tablets, Alma solid soap, and assorted alive soaps to support the Islamic community with the festivities. Iraba Eduse, marketing manager for Wilmar Africa, says the company would continue with this engagement with Muslim communities.
The Ramadan season is a time of peace, and we run an activation where we said fortune brings us together. We recognize that people have conflicts with others, and sometimes they need an opportunity or an avenue to be able to reconcile themselves, and we gave that opportunity. We run radio campaigns where people call in to give out the details of how they've wronged some people and they want to bring those relationships back. And we believe that this is the season where we promote peace, and even as the Imam said, we are able to reconcile people onto themselves and ensure that we have a peaceful Ghana. So today being Eid, we want to join our Muslim brothers to celebrate it big, to ensure that we have foods on our tables for the less privileged in society, that they don't feel left out.
Spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arimeyal Shaibu, expressed gratitude to the company on behalf of the Chief Imam. He further advised Muslim youth to be law-abiding.
Chief Imam, as a responsible leader, had already ahead of time been drawing attention that the young people should not overindulge in their celebration. I'm particularly keen to see that we celebrate in a more decent manner and also celebrating within the framework of law and be law-abiding. I don't support and I condemn completely any attempt to harass onlookers on our festive days. I mean, reckless riding on motorbikes and reckless driving in taxis, harassing people who are onlookers. Onlookers, they come, they want to see the beauty of our celebration. They did not come to be frightened. So it is a contradiction of our values if anyone does so. But we will continue to educate and we'll continue to really caution and inform and guide our young people that on such festive occasions.
Wilmar Africa is poised to reach out to other Muslim communities with its engagements.
And that'll be for the bulletin. I'm Charles Ayitey, but I will leave you with international business news, after which we have Prime Sports. Do stay with us.